Hello everyone, it's Brock O'Clock here, and today I want to do a video on Sonic Adventure 3. There was another article recently where in an interview with Takashi Iizuka, he said that he wanted to do Sonic Adventure 3 still, so this is something he's been reiterating over and over and over again. I thought it was finally time that maybe I talk about this a little bit, and I wanted to give some thoughts as to what I think should be, what is like mandatory if you want to do a Sonic Adventure 3. What do you need to do for this to succeed? Because it sounds like they really want to do it, at least he does. They still really don't know how. This whole video is going to be unscripted. I'm going to go over a lot of little things bit by bit. The only thing I want to hit on for the introduction is, do I think they should make a Sonic Adventure 3? I'll try to make this brief, but essentially the answer is, for business, yes. For will it be good? I don't know. So I guess the answer is yes, but you know, just because it would make a lot of money doesn't mean that you should do it. In terms of, like, it doesn't mean it'll be good, I guess. It seems obvious, but we really have to answer that question to ourselves, because as a business, to say, I want to make a Sonic Adventure 3 because you know it's going to make a lot of money is very easy. As a consumer, we're thinking, well, we want you to make a Sonic Adventure 3 because we want a Sonic Adventure 3. You can have our money if it's good. So we're going to go over every little bit, you know, we'll just do portions here, and I have notes, you know, so we'll start with gameplay. So in terms of gameplay, you know, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, they both have multiple styles of characters. It's not just Sonic. It was one of the highlights of the Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. So I almost feel like that is one thing you have to have mandatory. You know, perhaps you don't necessarily need treasure hunting, and in Sonic Adventure 2, they have the Tails like shooting stages. I think that you could get away with just having all Sonic, you know, style, like just run through the level gameplay. But on top of that, you do want to have multiple characters. I feel like that's a staple. It doesn't have to be 6, like both games actually have 6 now that I think about it. I've never thought about that before. But I do think that, you know, you're going to want at least a good 3. That's my opinion. No, maybe you have the 3 hedgehogs. I don't know. But I do think that you want multiple characters, and if not multiple play styles, then you're probably going to want like mini games and stuff. You're going to want it to be, you know, I guess the question is, we'll transition into something here in terms of gameplay. Do we want Sonic to be modernized? And what I mean by that is, well, you got to remember back when Adventure 1 and 2 are out, it was kind of a sandbox style. Like, you kind of like walk around, you have free controls and stuff, right? You know, the modern Sonic games with the boost system and all that stuff, it's kind of stiff. Like, you just walk forward and then you kind of like dodge things, and I don't know if parkour is the right word, but you know, you kind of like move left and right and jump and homing attack into things at the right time. You don't really have that like free range of motion. Your character just either moves forward or backward with the, you know, you can move left and right, but it's just very stiff. So that's a really good question. Like, do we modernize the controls or not? My answer is no. I think that people who are looking to play a Sonic Adventure game like that old style. They like those old controls. And I will get into more of that later. What else do I have here? So a better camera, that seems like an obvious, but for real, you know, if you do end up doing a sandbox style, we won't get into that. But Sonic Adventure 1 and 2's camera is not fantastic. And you might be thinking, like, oh, is it really that big a deal that he had to mention it? Well, Iizuka-san mentioned it a couple interviews ago. This might have been a year and a half. This was an older one where he was like, oh, I was playing it recently and I was thinking I want to, you know, do a remake or whatever. Nonetheless, though, like, I think you want to have extra missions, you know, to add replayability. That is something that I think was present in both Sonic Adventure games that did help. You know, you could replay Emerald Coast and beat it with 50 rings or whatever. It's kind of lame in that one. Sonic Adventure 2, you know, get 100 rings in this level, find the Lost Chow. I think those are things that you want to do in a Sonic Adventure game. Definitely, like, they are trying to when they're trying to decide, like, do we come up with a new gameplay style, do the old, or do a modernism? Well, Izuka-san was saying that they were making Frontiers in the hope that they could transition into Sonic Adventure. Here's my idea, I guess. I think what you do is you bring back the free range controls. I don't know if you get rid of boost, but we can talk about that some other time. Because that's not what's important for my idea here. I think you bring back the free range controls and you make it open world like Sonic Frontiers, but you have levels still within it, which Sonic Frontiers is going to have like cyberspace levels. It's not out yet, but I mean like traditional Sonic Adventure levels. Make one giant intertwined world where, you know, you might have a couple of hub worlds within that. Just imagine like Sonic Adventure 1, but if you didn't have the loading screens between Station Square, the Mystic Ruins, and the Egg Carrier, it was just kind of all one cohesive, you know, unit of a world. That's what I think would work better if you wanted to modernize Sonic Adventure at all. And then you might even be able to keep the boost system and stuff like that in place. And then on top of that, have certain areas that lead to the next level of the story and stuff like that. I think open world, as much as I'm getting tired of it in the gaming industry a little bit, actually works really well for a Sonic Adventure idea. You don't have to. I don't think that's a necessity. A lot of the other things I mentioned here already, I feel like those are necessary things. And some of it might seem small, like, oh, do you have to have, like, a variety of playstyles? And I'm like, well, you do have to understand that if you're making a Sonic Adventure 3, you're trying to cater to a nostalgic audience at this point. And you're going to disappoint a lot of people if you don't do a lot of things that they would expect out of a Sonic Adventure 3. Or a Sonic Adventure anything. But that's what I would do for gameplay. I think I would make it some kind of like open world type of thing. So Sonic Frontiers, like transitioning that into a Sonic Adventure game, is not a terrible idea. Companies do stuff like that all the time where, you know, they make a Bowser's Fury and the next Mario game looks like it might be open world. So that's not crazy. Let's move on to story. So this is one thing that a lot of Sonic fans are it's going to be a mixed reaction, but let me tell you from somebody who is a hardcore Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 fan, one of the things, it might be the thing, that makes those games the most appealing in the franchise to most people, to many people I should say, is the story and how serious it is. Modern day Sonic, ever since Sonic Colors, has been very... Oh, what was that line in Sonic Colors where he says the thing to the... I don't know. Whatever, Sonic Colors has... I was thinking, like, there's like a line in the game that's really cringy where he says something to the Wisp.
It seems an evil man, and you might know him, who they call Baldy Nosehair.
Baldy Nosehair? That's the best thing I've heard all day. I gotta remember that one.
I know, I've already written it down.
You can't have the... Whoa! Look at Eggstachio up there. Comments towards Eggman or whatever. Like, that I do not think is going to work for Sonic Adventure. Sonic should be snarky.
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
But he's not cringy. Well, I shouldn't even say that. He's not, like, wacky, like I'm appealing to children type of Sonic, at least. He's a little too goofy in the new games. He's goofy in the sense that, like, he's like, whoa! I don't even know. What does modern Sonic like do? I'm sure that you guys know what I'm referring to, though.
Baldy Nosehair! Baldy Nosehair!
Like, I recently had a scuttle on Twitter with somebody where, after the Sonic Prime announcement, I said I was like kind of getting tired of this modern like comic reliefy Sonic, and I said I kind of miss when Sonic was more serious. Like, I'm not saying every version of that, but can we have at least one version, whether it's the movie or the comic? Well, the comic is. Or one of the video games or the show or something where we have a serious Sonic and not one who's like holding an ice cream cone who's like, wow, that's cold. and says something really, punny or whatever. And somebody actually responded to me and said, like, Sonic was never serious, which sounds like the IGN thing, but I'm paraphrasing, but they said something like, clearly you did not play Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 because he is not serious in those games. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. No, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are Sonic 06 is pretty serious, but it sometimes in the worst ways. But other than that, Sonic 1 and 2, we'll say Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 were literally the start of it being very serious, at least. Because Shadow's kind of serious, and Sonic Heroes is mostly somewhat serious. They're just not that goofy. Now, Sonic makes a couple of snarky comments every now and then. In Sonic Adventure 1, when he first sees Eggman, he's like, look, a giant talking egg.
Look, it's a giant talking egg.
So there's, like, some things like that. He has some snark. But he doesn't have the, that's what it is. It feels like elementary school humor. It's not quite that bad. Some of it's bad humor, but it's not like something a child, like a literal 5-year-old would say, where they're like, you're little poopy pants. Like, that's what modern Sonic feels like. And I don't mind that, although Sonic Colors is the worst in terms of that in recent games. And even in Frontiers, it looks like it's a little bit more serious. So I'm excited for that, but I do think, I'm just saying, for Sonic Adventure 1 or Sonic Adventure 3, gotta have serious. I know that was a long explanation for that, but I will get pushback on that, and I don't know why. The old voices. I understand this is a tough one because you can't just necessarily... First of all, I don't know where a lot of those people are. I don't remember if the Dr. Robotnik from Sonic Adventure 1 is still alive. I don't remember how long Mike Pollock has been doing it. He's fine. Honestly, he would still be fine if you kept him anyway. He's the least of the worries. But specifically with Sonic, especially Sonic, he's the number one.
You've turned into a big-time villain, Doctor.
The rest of the characters kind of give or take, although I do like Rouge's old voice, but I like her new one too. I don't know. I like all their new voices, but I do think, again, like, it depends on how much you want to play into nostalgia, and a lot of you are going to be like, oh, that's the least of our worries. Like, that's such a small thing. Well, you got to remember, when you're appealing to nostalgia, every little bit that you take out, all of a sudden it starts to feel a lot less and less and less like the sequel or the remake that you were hoping for. That's why so many remakes get panned, Take Spyro, for example, in terms of the way they approached the voice acting. Well, Spyro 1 had a different voice actor, but Tom Kenny, most people know him as the iconic, ideal Spyro voice actor from 2 and 3, so they just threw him in the first game. Totally fine. Eggman, totally fine. Roger Craig Smith as Sonic in a Sonic Adventure game. I love Roger Craig Smith. I just think people are going to feel weird if it's not... Is it Jason Griffith? I'm, having a brain fart right now. Or Ryan Drummond. Sorry, Jason Griffith was in a different version, right? Ryan Drummond. So I just think it would feel a little odd, personally. And I do think it's one of those things, like, it's not that big a deal. You're probably right, but it's a little thing that goes a long way, in my opinion. I do think a coherent canon in the Sonic timeline. So Iizuka-san has not had the best track record recently of having some sort of, coherent... He basically, I can't remember the example he gave with, Shadow, but for example, for years and years and years, the Sonic fandom believes Sonic is blue, because that's what we were told and that's what we can see. And then Iizuka-san has been like, actually, he's red! So, I know that a lot of you, maybe if you're not a Sonic fan, but I assume if you're watching this, you are, might not know what I'm referring to, because I can't remember the exact example with Iizuka, but I think there was, something in relation to, Shadow and stuff, and he's like, actually this, and we're all like, huh? And, actually, if I could give... Here's an example I know for sure, a more recent, modern example, and I don't know if this one's Iizuka-san's fault or not, but it... nonetheless shows some of the inconsistencies with the Sonic canon over at Sega. In Sonic Origins, we've always been led to believe the timeline of events was Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic 3. And then in Sonic Origins, it seems like they officially have changed it. So now it's Sonic 1, Sonic CD, then Sonic 2, and Sonic 3, which, in that instance, it's not like a crazy big deal, but it does suggest a couple of things, right? It suggests that Sonic met Amy before Tails, as an example. So, keeping a good Sonic canon, for Sonic Adventure 1, 2, and 3 is I would say, priority. Okay, Sonic Adventure 3 should take place right after 2. Ignore everything that came after that. So, Silver, no. Blaze, no. You could have them in the game, but rewrite the story. If you want to put them in or something like that, fit them in. I think that it makes more sense to have the game take place right after 2. If not, if you want to, I suppose you could say like after Shadow the Hedgehog, maybe. Because I guess that does actually already continue the storyline, right? Sonic Heroes. But whatever. I want a clear, coherent canon to this game. I don't want it to be like Izuka-san, like years later, he's just like, well, actually, you could fit in anywhere. This, that. Just like, I do think that in terms of story, it's nice for us fans to be like, Sonic Adventure 1, 2, maybe Sonic Heroes, maybe Shadow the Hedgehog, and then 3. Like, it works. Like, it makes sense. Like, we all understand what the story is, and it's cool to see it continued. Again, not one of those things that's an absolute necessity, but I think that goes a long way. A new villain. So, in regards to a villain, I think of new villain is a definite yes. I don't think you would want it to be Dr. Robotnik straight away again, and especially in Sonic Adventure 2, while he is a villain. Still kind of a mixed bag sometimes. I think another like monster or another rival like Shadow or something is exactly what Sonic Adventure 3 would need to spice things up a bit. Sonic Adventure 1 had Chaos, who's not a true villain, but he was the antagonist of that game. And then Sonic Adventure 2 had Shadow. I think that we get a lot of Sonic heroes, no pun intended, added to the story. We don't always get the best villains, and sometimes the villain is just straight up Eggman. I like it when they change it up a little bit. So I do think that for Sonic Adventure, a new villain would be a must. A small thing, but it's for me personally. Have multiple stories, because we already said we're going to have multiple characters. If not multiple stories, like, for example, because if it's open world, like we said, maybe you can change the characters and they all have their own levels, so you have to beat, in the same open world. Something like that, whatever. Have a finale. I mean, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 both have a finale. With Sonic Adventure 1, you beat all the stories and you get Super Sonic. Sonic Adventure 2, you beat both stories and you get Super Sonic and Super Hyper, whatever, fuck, Super Shadow. Whatever. Do that. Just a small thing. I would say make sure that's in there. So back to the hero characters thing. Utilizing old characters, I think, and having many of them. Doesn't have to be an insane amount. Like I said, Sonic Adventure 2 basically has 6, right? And then Big is a Easter egg in the Dreamcast version and in the some modern versions. You might think like you don't want to stuff too much into one thing, but I think personally, Sonic Adventure is like the grandest of Sonic stories. It's always had the biggest Sonic stories and stuff. Maybe Sonic 06 and Unleashed could compare in terms of how grand they are, but generally speaking, throughout the series, I think most people consider like 1 and 2 to be like a big, grand adventure, a big story. It has a lot of elements to it. So I think like having a lot of characters, even if they're not playable, just involved in the story, will get a lot of fans excited, and making it make sense that they fit in. Don't just have them show up like at the end of Generations where Shadow's like, you got this, Sonic. I just remember him saying, everybody says that, but I remember him saying it in particular.
You've got this, Sonic.
You can win, Sonic.
don't just stuff them in there. Have a reason. But you know, a good 5-6 Sonic characters is going to get a lot of people excited. And I did mention that for gameplay, a good like maybe 2 or 3 characters at least. But it's especially for story, having a lot of characters with different chemistries to bounce off each other. I can't remember if I'll just say it here now too. I can't remember if I said for gameplay, but also for gameplay, mini games like. If you don't, especially if you do not have the multiple gameplay styles because they just want to stick to the Sonic running type of style, maybe insert some kind of like mini games or something, because the original Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, while they didn't really, I don't know if I'd say they had mini games, but they had things to do, like Sonic Adventure DX at least had mission mode. Maybe. Oh, and then there's Sonic Adventure 2 had like the racing mode. So just a couple of small ones I would say would be nice. Again, I know I'm saying a lot here, but Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, there's a lot more to those games than what we remember. Sometimes we think like, oh, you could beat it in an hour. It's like, well, you could beat the story in an hour, but then there's a lot of like other little things to do. Like Chow Garden. We'll get there. Music. Sonic Adventure games have a variety of music. And they all cater to the character that you're playing as. Sonic's music was all like just rock, kind of just upbeat rock. Shadow had a very dark, I don't even know what you call his theme song. I'm not sure what genre that would be, but kind of reminds me of some underground type of, I don't know. Knuckles had the raps, the hip hops. Rouge had very like, I don't even know how else to say it, but honestly almost like sexy like music, right? Like it was very much like extremely feminine type of, Amy had something not sexy but a feminine theme song. Tails had very upbeat like kind of feel good music. His has a lot of feel good music. So I think having those varieties, Eggman's just fucking rocks. And Sonic Adventure 2, the Eggman thing is so good. So not only that, you have a lot to work with when it comes to music, because especially now they know so many musicians for Sonic. Bring in, I don't know if they would fit well, but Cash, fuck it. Bring in T. Lopes, bring in, who's the girl that worked with Jun Sonoe on the Team Sonic Racing soundtrack. Obviously Crush 40, that's a given. You have to have a Crush. I'm sorry, you have to have a Crush 40. Like, I swear by the end of this video, everybody's gonna be like, this guy's demanding. It's like, do you want this game to be good? Like, and I don't just mean good, because you have to understand, again, I'm gonna say this again in a different way. The hype around this game, is it ever gonna meet the hype? No. You have to get as close as possible. These are all a lot of little things that will help push you to that. I'm just saying things that are present in both Sonic Adventure games. You know what I mean? That I think people will be like, I see what they did there. Even if you didn't like certain aspects, like maybe you don't like the music, but you understand, like, oh, but they kept the variety. Like Knuckles has like a few rap songs for his stages. Maybe we didn't like those songs, but it worked. Like we get it. One last thing for the music. Another thing that I feel like is an absolute must, because it makes sense for both those games. Keep the characters' original themes, but remix them. It took me a long time when I was a kid to figure this out. I think I figured it out in like 6th grade that Sonic's theme was the exact same from the first game.
It doesn't matter now what happens, I will never give up the fight. It doesn't matter now what happens, I will never give up the fight.
And I played Sonic Adventure 1 when I was in like kindergarten, so it was like a good 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. And I didn't figure out until high school that they're all the same. Tails and Knuckles are the same too.
I wanna fly high so I can reach the highest of all the heavens. I wanna fly high so I can reach the highest of all the heavens.
Born on an island in the heavens, blood
So well, and I was just assuming these characters are in the game. A new version of It Doesn't Matter. A new version of I Believe in Myself. A new version of Unknown.me. That's Knuckles, right? And then if you have Shadow, Rouge, Eggman, well, I assume Eggman's in it, yeah. Remixes of those three. Although Eggman's theme was not in the original Sonic Adventure, but I feel like that is one of the things that helps give the DNA of Sonic Adventures. Like, they have themes. There's a consistency between Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. There's a lot of consistencies that carry over because it is a sequel. I know a lot of people are like, oh, new theme. It's like those themes are ingrained in the DNA of Sonic Adventure to me. I mean, maybe that's just me. But I personally would remix those songs one more time. You're going to do a Sonic Adventure 3. Remix them again and do something. Make them sound really cool, really good. And then we have 3 versions of, well, at least Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. Rouge, Shadow, Eggman would be the second versions, if that's what they do. All right. Here we go. Chow Garden. You have to have the Chow Garden. They cannot avoid it anymore. You're not going to get away with having a Sonic Adventure 3 without the Chow Garden. But this is where it's tough. This might be one of the toughest things for them to incorporate. Because not only do you need a Chow Garden that'll feel like the original, this is one area where you need the free controls. You wouldn't be able to do the boost method in a fucking Chow Garden because how would that control? That would be awful. I think the Chow Garden would need to be expanded. I think it would need to be big. I think you need expansive ideas. Potentially something like more minigames for the Chows to play in, like Chow Racing. Well, they had Chow Racing in the first one. But I guess I was thinking in my head in cards. So they already have Chow Racing. Forget that. Forget I just said that. But they have Chow Racing. They have Chow Martial Arts. I don't know if they did, like, Chow bumper cars. I don't know. I actually really want to see Chow bumper cars now. Just stuff like that. You know, little things that you can train your Chow to get better at and do it with them and whatever. I think that expanding the way that Chow works. So they were already kind of complex in Sonic Adventure 2, but expanding it so that there's more variety. Like you can make a Chow that turns in, it looks like Joker from Persona 5 as an Easter egg if you increase his stealth a bunch or something. By the way, new abilities, like, I don't know, maybe stealth. I just threw that out there just cuz, but, you know, stuff like that. So, new abilities for the Chow and things, whatever. Just a whole expanse of things. Make it so that these Chow really feel unique to one person. Like, I'm the only person who has a Chow that's kind of like this. Or if I'm not the only one person, there's not very many of us. Like, I focused on Power, and he looks like a bird. I don't know. On top of that, this would be really cool. This is and by the way, a lot of this, I think the Chow Garden being in the game is a necessity. I should clarify that. But I don't think all these ideas I'm pitching are a necessity. I just think they would be good ideas. Online, if you could visit other people's Chow Gardens, which you could also edit. I'm asking a lot here for the Chow Garden, but you would want to expand the Chow Garden. You wouldn't want it to be simple. Sonic Adventure 2 came out so long ago. If they really nailed all of this, it would be amazing. Having some kind of online where you can go to other people's Chow Gardens, visit their Chow, edit, and you can edit your own world and all that stuff would add so much replayability. Seriously. Like, there would be people buying this just for the Chow Garden. Sounds ridiculous, but it is true. It is true. I think that's all I had on Chow for now. I almost feel like I could have added more. The style and art direction, I don't have much to say. Sonic's Adventure 1 and 2's style and art direction is kind of flexible, I want to say. So, you know, because, I mean, you've got jungle levels, you've got ones that just look like they're on Earth streets. There's, like, Sonic Adventure 1 is literally just a beach. I mean, it's beautiful, but so I almost feel like just having Earth-like set pieces is kind of its its style, maybe fantasy Earth, but Earth nonetheless. Like, that's just what Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 is. It's not Green Hill Zone. That's a tough one to nail. Getting the feeling of the art style might be one of the toughest things that they would accomplish, honestly. It's not as easy as it looks. Just go ask Halo 4 and 5 and then how they had to revert back in Halo Wars 2. It was really hard to go back to an old art style. You're like, how did they do that? You know, it's not easy because every time that somebody tries to duplicate someone else's art style, they end up putting a little bit of themselves in it regardless. So, that being said, if you want one art style to say the exact same, I suggest that you have Yuji Uekawa do all of the promo art and all the in-game art, and that to put it all over the game like they did Sonic Adventure 2 especially. You know, it's on the loading screens, it's on the when you're selecting a stage, it's on the story mode banners, it's on the previously on Sonic, which is another thing that was in both games, by the way. See, there's a lot of little things here. They need to play Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 a bajillion times. Here are some little things to consider that I don't think are necessary, but you might want to consider doing these. I have 3. One of them I said it earlier, actually, so I really have 2. One is the hub world. You don't have to have a hub world. Sonic Adventure 2 didn't have a hub world. You could have it level-based. Personally, I've always, as pointless as it kind of is in terms of gameplay, I've always really enjoyed the hub world aspect of Sonic Adventure 1. It was one of the very few things when I was a kid, when I went to play Sonic Adventure 2, I was disappointed there was no hub world. You don't need one, but it might be nice. And I think it works really well for Sonic Adventure. If there's one thing I could knock Sonic Adventure 1 for, it's not having enough hub worlds. Just to make you have the feeling of like going to different places to access levels. There's like 4 levels in Station Square alone. It's like, Jesus. Would have been nice to have maybe one more hub world just to split up the levels a little bit, but whatever. I mentioned it just a moment ago, but the previously thing. It's a little thing. You don't need it, but I really like that when you come back into Sonic Adventures, you know, it does the, like, scroll down, it has a background image of a character, and he's like, I'm Knuckles. I just got out of the sewer, or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I love that. It's one of those little things I just hit my mic. I love about Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Again, all these little things, like, some of you are probably already saying, like, you don't have to have all this. You might as well just make it modern and call it Sonic Adventure 3. No. I just think a lot of these little things go a long way. Look at the way they've developed Crash Bandicoot Trilogy and Spyro Reignited. When they were making those, you know, fans would be like, oh man, the sky in the stage Toasty doesn't really look like it should. And then they changed it. It's a little thing, but we're playing with nostalgia here. All those little things are really going to go a long way, I promise. I'm going to keep reiterating that because I know some fucker is going to be like, well, just keep the boost controls in. It's like, well, we don't... That wasn't in Sonic Adventure, so it depends on how they utilize it. If they want to do something new, you have to make it feel old at the same time. It's backwards from what you usually do, where you take something old and try to make it feel new. So that's why remakes are so difficult. They're not as easy as a lot of people think they are. It's easy to get the structure of everything if you're just doing a shot-for-shot remake, but a Sonic Adventure 3 won't be a shot-for-shot. It'll be a sequel. So, it's difficult. And then the last thing for little things to consider is the new character to add chemistry. I mentioned new villain, and I think I mentioned you don't have to have a new character. I really don't believe, like, you need a new Hedgehog or you need a Cat Girl or whatever. I don't think you need that. I do think you need a new villain that's not Dr. Eggman, but I actually don't believe you need, although it would be nice to have a new character, but I would like one, especially if it makes sense in the story and everything. So again, little things to consider. That's why I say, you don't need it, but yeah, I hope I didn't miss anything. There's so many aspects to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 that make them what they are. And again, at the end of the day, if you really, really wanted to simplify this, it would be Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are Sonic games where Sonic plays normally, and in the first game, Tails, and all the other characters play in their own unique ways that change up the way that you play the stages that were presented to you in Sonic's levels. You could simplify it down to that, and Sonic Adventure 3 could come out, and we could all just be like, it was okay. Or they can try really hard to capture the look and the feel and the gameplay of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and impress us all. I don't know if they have it in it. I wouldn't want that project. I know a lot about those games, but it would be difficult. So I'm not knocking anybody or nothing like that. It would be difficult, but I'm just trying to give a perspective, like, what do you need to make a Sonic Adventure 3? It's like a lot more than you think. And I will give Iizuka this. In the interview, I don't have it on me right now, but I do think he said something like, I'm not sure if we could get it done because of all the money it would take, and to get Sega to develop it, to give us the approval to development, it would cost a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, I believe him, because I truly believe Iizuka, he's thinking more along my level of, like, I want to make everything perfect, and one of the ways you're going to need to make everything perfect is have a lot of money and some time, which Sega has not always been generous giving either of those things, but especially Tide. So what do I have in my notes here? For an epilogue here, is what I called it in my notes. Said this is a lot. I know a lot of you might be saying this guy can't be seriously expecting to do all of this. I kind of already said that to you guys a couple times, to which I would respond, so your expectations are not high for Sonic Adventure 3? Because you got to remember that these are the most beloved Sonic games in the whole franchise. Maybe the original, the Genesis, at least outside of the Genesis games. I'll say that. And I honestly believe that Sonic Adventure 3 isn't just one of the most anticipated Sonic games of all time. I actually think it's one of the most anticipated video game sequels. I'm not saying it's the most, because Half-Life 3 exists, and Portal 3, or doesn't exist, rather. Portal 3 doesn't exist. Left 4 Dead 3 doesn't exist. Valve is just the master of never getting to the number 3, right? And there's more. But that being said, there's already going to be a ton of hype for this game if it gets announced. So if you're not going to succeed beyond your current expectations, for me, it's like, why do it? So if you are going to do this, and I hope this is what Iizuka-san's saying, especially with that comment about, like, money, and he knows what he needs and resources and whatnot. If you are really going to do this, Sega, or Sonic Team, Iizuka, I guess, you really go and do it. I don't just mean like, oh, we kind of made like a, brought back City Escape. Or we played with the nostalgia bones. It's an okay Sonic game. No, you go and do it. You make Sonic fucking Adventure 3. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I am very passionate about Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. They are my favorite, games, potentially of all time. Probably of all time, yeah. I mean, what am I saying? They're my favorite games of all time. So, there you go. There's a lot there, and there's a lot that they would have to do. And I want them to do it. I want them to give it a shot. Now, my suggestion, if you don't watch my videos normally, was still maybe remake Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, because honestly, I would accept that those aren't as good, and then we figure out, like, maybe what they didn't do so well in those games and what they did do well, and then we could carry that over to a Sonic Adventure 3 and see where we're at. Personally, that's what I would do, is I would remake those two games first, make sure they don't bomb. Even if they're like 6s, I'm like, okay, but we still got some, we know what we did wrong. This is all leading to a Sonic Adventure 3. Something like that. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching to the end. If you did watch to the end, I hope you enjoyed the listen. This was probably more of a listen for you guys. And make sure you hit like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Help me out, Jesus. I'll have plenty of more Sonic content, probably more Sonic Adventure stuff. I'm very passionate about those two games. Certainly if they do announce a Sonic Adventure 3. But right now we're heading into Frontiers. But I wanted to give some thoughts on the idea of, just making Sonic Adventure 3 and how it's not going to be as easy as, maybe we think it is behind the scenes. I'm sure they're like, oh man, this is kind of This idea is tough, you know. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see y'all later. Bye, guys.